All right, good evening, everyone. This is Tuesday, June 23rd. This is the regular meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 9th, 2015 regular meeting.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We have an opportunity for public comment. Is there any members of the public that would like to make a comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to principals' reports.
Good evening, everyone. So, for our end of the year, some of the things that have been going on at Chancellor the last several weeks. We recently finished our field days. Our grades K to 2 was June 11th, and we were in the Northern Dutchess News School of the Week for it, which we came and observed. Grades 3 through 5 was June 16th. I make a call to use that rain date. Thank you, sir. K graduation was this morning, June 23rd, class of 2027. And I was telling Deidre on the way in. There's a description of like every group of kids coming through. They absolutely. It's not hard to come up with that description. You know, you just kind of get to know them throughout the year. This year, huge huggers, man. Big huggers. They interrupted lessons. I felt bad. I would literally. I'd go into the cafeteria, like half the table clears. It's pretty cool. So, very affectionate crew we have moving up to first grade. That's how I would describe it. So, annual grade 3 Rails for Hell bike trip was June 19th, went very well. A books journey, I had mentioned about the Meet the Authors, I believe, in my last report. And it was Friday, June 19th. We had the Meet the Authors event. It was absolutely packed. I don't think I've ever seen it that packed upstairs. You barely had room to move in all 4 of the classrooms. Wonderful assortment of books created by 4th grade students. We had everything from memoirs, biographies, fiction, really good stuff. They even put like the U.S. and Canada price on the back of their books. So it was really, it was great. I wish I could. It was one of those situations where you just can't hear every student, but it was a great event, well attended. I had mentioned a couple of times our Run Across America initiative in PE. So we have completed our goal and made it safely to Los Angeles, California. As a school, we ran 3,246 miles and burned a total of 333,440 calories, which equates to about 95.3 pounds lost as a school. Cool initiative.
That's a couple of kids, right?
Yeah,
Several kindergartners.
I also want to report kind of a small event with one class, but it was a 3rd grade event. Our grade 3 unit on Egypt had concluded, and the wrap-up was on June 3rd. And as a culminating activity, Mrs. Seyfarth's class, for Mrs. Seyfarth's class, the students created an Egyptian marketplace, so the other 3 classes came and visited their outdoor market. So it was kind of cool. It was something that wasn't done by everyone. It was an idea they came up with in that class, and the rest of the grade participated. So it was great to see that kind of, it's one of our newer units and really came to a great conclusion. Something I am extremely proud of, and I don't know if you saw it in the newsletter this past week, but we started a buddy bench at CLS. It's something that's come up once or twice. I even had a student a year or so ago from a new school, from an old school, mention that they had one at her old school. And we've finally been able to make it a reality. And we've been working on it for weeks. I want to actually thank Barb Allstaff, Fawn Johnson, and Christy Orban for spearheading and organizing this effort. It's amazing how quickly we were able to get it up and running. Students were introduced to it, as well as strategies for using the bench to foster friendships, as well as eliminate exclusion on the playground. It stands for anti-bullying and compassion, and many of the things that we talk about in our common language for all. And I wanted to kind of just give you a little history lesson of that. That really came about. I have to kind of give props to Chrissy Orban again, because it was an idea she had come up with. And my next item is something that's kind of a brainstorm from that as well. But she had come up with it, being a speech therapist. There's a lot of students that can't verbalize, especially in social, areas like recess and cafeteria and things like that. So she felt like it really started as this idea of trying to benefit her students and get them involved. So in addition to that, we just set that up about a week ago, but also related to the Buddy Bench, something that we did during field day for 3 through 5. Fawn Johnson put together. She always obviously does like a visual art type of thing with all the students. This time she worked with grades 3 through 5 to create story stones, which were painted with words on them, and very colorful stones. Each of the students did it during field day, like I said, and there's images, words on the stones, and it allows you to pull them out and make stories and create sentences, and so students communicate. So it was kind of, those two things kind of came together at once. And once again, just it allows students to create stories with the stones, communicate with each other, work together. What we did was we created a space behind the swings. And it sounds dangerous, but it's not. It's in the woods. We cleared out Sheldon and his crew kind enough last year to clear that space out. It's really being utilized. We have 2 by 10-foot tables back there that were donated in the name of Linda Morrison, one of our recently retired staff members. And we thought, under the tree in the shade, it was a really good place to put it. So it's actually laid out with brick, and the stones are inside. Students have been great about utilizing them appropriately, things like that. 2 great initiatives, I think, that really addressed something that we wanted to address during recess, some of those unstructured times. I also wanted to mention our CLS Library Summer Reading Program. E-books and digital audio books are available through our Destiny Library catalog. And Ms. Olstad has also created multiple reading lists and suggestions, as well as links to local libraries and their reading lists and activities. So just trying to kind of get some of that information out to the community. Upcoming events, not too many left. We have the grade 5 moving up ceremony tomorrow morning on the 24th in the auditorium. I always want to thank my colleagues, Dr. D and John Chemnitzer, for allowing us for the 3rd year to use that space. We made the space for us. And the last day is on Thursday the 25th. Students will be dismissed at 10:30. And really kind of culminate the year every year with everyone outside. Literally the building empties out. We're all out there waving to the students. It's a really nice moment. So that's how we'll wrap up the year.
Questions for Mr. Chemnitzer? Or Mr. King, sorry. Jumping ahead of myself. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Chemnitzer.
Good evening, everyone. Just before I start my report, just put on my other hat as a parent in this district, and as Mr. King was talking about the book's journey, I had the pleasure of going over for the first time and being able to view it and walk around the classrooms, and I had about half an hour to spend in the classroom, and it was not nearly enough time to see all of the wonderful work that all of the students had done, and I didn't get out of my own son's classroom, let alone into all of the other 4th grade classrooms. I was really disappointed to be able to do that, but what a wonderful event that was. Something else that Mr. King and I were just talking about, earlier this month, 7th grade students from my building served as docents and tour guides for our 2nd grade students over at CLS for an abbreviated version of what has become, I think this was the 3rd year that we've done a 7th grade walking history tour. And as this event in the 7th grade starts to get bigger and bigger each year, Mr. Frischkinet reached out to his 2nd grade counterparts, and it was relatively last minute. And just turned out to be an amazing event. The feedback that I got was overwhelmingly positive. The feedback that Mr. King got was overwhelmingly positive. But we had about 15 students in the 7th grade who dressed up in period costumes and gave presentations and participated in skits at the post office, at the Beacon Arms, at the DAR house in town. It was just a great way to connect our kids with the elementary school kids. And share some of the positive work in planning that Mr. Frischkinet has done at the 7th grade level with our 2nd grade teachers, and that's certainly something that we hope to continue in the future. In social studies classes, our 7th grade students ended the year taking part in an extensive Civil War research and reconstruction research project. I know I spoke about this at this time last year. This took the place of the beloved Expo that was really an institution in this district for a long time. However, using all of the new technology that we have in the space here, using iMovie, using GarageBand, the Macs, the iPads, the high school green room, students really created some incredible 10-minute videos depicting various aspects and various portions of the Civil War. As this project continues to evolve and continues to grow, the quality of the product that we're getting from our students is just amazing. And as we've done all throughout the year with similar projects such as this, we invited our parents to come and join us. We had a number of parents that took advantage of that, came and viewed their children, their child's, and other children's projects during the students' lunch periods. And again, the feedback that we received was overwhelmingly positive, so we look forward to continuing that project in the future. Earlier this month, BMS finished out its spring concert series. I like to call it the spring concert series or season, with its chorus and its small ensemble concerts. Each year, I'm just amazed in the springtime the amount of progress that students make from the fall and winter concerts to the springtime. In science classes, our 8th grade students ended this year with a project that we've done, Ms. Kogel has done for the last several years, but it's just kind of a fun way for 8th grade students to end the school year after the state testing is completed. And they're asked to develop a hypothesis, design and conduct an experiment, analyze data, and then give a presentation to their classmates. And each year I ask her about some of the more interesting ones, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but we had all sorts of hypotheses that were tested. Observation skills between males and females, that was interesting. The effect of testing on heart rate versus scary movies, that was another interesting one. Testing creates a lot more, increases heart rate quite a bit more than scary movies do. The effect of carbonation on propulsion in water bottle rockets, the color of food and taste tests, a whole host of things, but it was a very nice way to talk a little bit about scientific method and to finish the school year for the 8th grade students on a positive note. Last Thursday, we held our annual Moving Up ceremony and ice cream social. Again, as you recall, last year, as a result of some parent feedback, we changed our format around a little bit, put all of our 8th grade students up on the stage, gave them an opportunity to have their moment in the sun, walk across the stage. For parents, again, feedback was very positive. This year with our Student Achievement Awards, we were able to honor 20 students with the B honor roll. We call it the B honor roll, but essentially those students have achieved an 80 or greater in every class they've ever taken throughout middle school, from accelerated math to some of their lifelong learning classes. They've demonstrated academic achievement, positive academic achievement across the board throughout their 3 years. And we had 2 students that we honored with an A honor roll, Student Achievement Award. Again, just an amazing example of perseverance through a very difficult time in their lives. Last Friday, we held our annual field day. Great thanks to PTSO and to the building level planning team. Again, it was a wonderful day. We had, as I was saying before this meeting, we probably had our best attendance in my 10 years here. And that's really something that the building level planning team has strived for over the past couple of years. We've changed the format around a number of different times. We really wanted it to be a whole school celebration, school spirit, and just positive morale at the end of the school year. And I think this year we came real close to the pinnacle of what we were looking for. Thank you to Mr. Burnell, to Officer Scattergood, to Sergeant Dunn, who all joined me in the dunk tank.
Right. That's a draw.
A lot of other people had were busy that day and had meetings. I'm going to go on record tonight. And just let everybody here know that the date next year is June 17th.
I have a meeting that day.
Please feel free to clear your calendars on that morning.
I'm going twice as soon as.
Oh, you're going more than twice.
Come join us, have a little fun, and get wet. The students really enjoyed it. And coming full circle, last night we held our 5th grade parent orientation. Very well attended, and again, in an effort to really include our students and to give parents a taste in the life of the 6th grader. We had 10 students that came and presented to our 5th grade parents about their experiences this year, about some of the things that that they knew that they were and their parents were nervous about and anxious about as they came into 6th grade last year, and then gave tours afterwards. Looking ahead, planning has already begun with Zara Aina, Dr. Patricia Wright, and Sumi Stodenbrook as we plan for our 2nd annual Madagascar Day in the fall. This year it will be held on October 16th. And again, we have a number of teachers at each grade level that are going to do some summer curriculum planning work over the summer to increase the programming for that day, and we're really excited about the possibilities. And finally, something else I'm very excited about, thanks to the Rhinebeck Science Foundation, plans are underway to redesign and upgrade the BMS computer lab this summer, which will include revising the computer technology curriculum at all 3 grade levels, 6 through 8. And we look forward, we're excited to work with Lori Keaton from CELT to begin this process shortly. Due to things going on at BMS.
Charlie, what was the date for the Madagascar Day?
That was June 17th.
No, I got that. That's already down here. I got that one here.
Madagascar Day will be on October 16th.
Questions for Mr. Counselor? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take a moment, and this has already been publicized, but I do want to note that our colleague Maureen Cunningham was recognized in the 32nd Annual Dean's Award for Excellence in Teaching from SUNY New Paltz. Ms. Cunningham's nomination was first announced. There was just an outpouring of letters of support. Her application packet, which was forwarded through the main office, was substantial. It's a very well-deserved award. We're going to miss Ms. Cunningham, of course, but a fitting way to end her tenure at Rhinebeck. Recently, our chorus and our band traveled to an adjudication festival at Lake Compounds. Each of the 3 choral groups we sent was rated with a superior rating. That has not occurred. We had 2 superior ratings, and the next level, but to have all 3 rates superior was quite an achievement. In addition, we received some personalized feedback from the band adjudicator, who contacted Ms. Natalie to note that although this is not a competition, each band is assessed on their own merits and within their own context. The adjudicator, the main judge, indicated that the Rhinebeck High School band was one of the best they've heard in quite some time. So our music program doing very well. We recently had our academic awards night. 77 separate awards were presented to over 90 student recipients. I'd like to recognize the work of the Scholarship Committee. This is a group composed of our guidance counselors and faculty who meet on a regular basis, starting really in late January, as the awards come in, to carefully select the most deserving, most fitting recipients of these awards. We also held our athletic awards night. I'd like to note that we had 68 students who were recognized as scholar athletes in 1 athletic season, 14 students in 2 seasons, and 7 were maintained a 9-year above average throughout the entire school year, and were 3-season members of the all-Mahal academic team. In addition, 42 of our seniors were recognized as completing a varsity season in their senior year. And I note that our senior class this year has 83 students. So just about half, a little more than half of our seniors participated in interscholastic athletic activity, which I think says a lot about our student body and what we can offer them here through athletics. In addition, 9 specific awards were announced at the athletic awards night. I wanted to close the loop and update you somewhat on the BLPT initiatives. Once again, we administered a senior exit survey to our seniors in the last week of school, and a 9th grade exit survey through English classes to our 9th graders. Our building level planning team uses that information to see where we're doing well and what we might need to improve on and change as we move ahead into the next school year. In addition, another initiative, as you recall, is a recommended change in our procedure for official transcripts. The BLPT had recommended with faculty support that the parents and students are able to opt into including a rank and standardized test grades. We're just finalizing our work with our data service provider, School Tool, to make sure that we can have our transcript do what we want it to do. We're very close to that. Once that occurs, we'll communicate with all parents and students, probably sometime in late July, and let them know that we've made this change, let them know what the procedures will be in order to indicate what information you'd like to include in your transfer. So that was a long process, but well worth it. We also, from the BLPT, we held our Welcome Back barbecue, and we had half attendees. So that was down from last year when we had 20. We're going to have to find another way to solicit information from our recent grads to help us refine our program. But I certainly want to recognize the work of Mr. Anthony, our food service director, who just did a fantastic job putting out a nice barbecue spread for our returning students. And none of that went to waste. It was for our students' lunch the next day. Our seniors held their potluck barbecue last Wednesday. Very well attended, very nice affair, weather cooperated. It was in the Rhinebeck High School cafeteria. The students were also outside with their parents and friends. Thanks to the yearbook and Mrs. Giles, the yearbook advisor, had a nice slideshow going on at the same time with photographs of all of our graduating seniors. Looking ahead, we have our senior breakfast and rehearsal this Thursday morning. And of course, the commencement is this Saturday at 6 p.m.
Lisa.
I wanted to ask you about the exit surveys that you were talking about, the exit surveys.
Yes.
What use is made of those surveys, and does it make sense to give the board a report on what the results of the surveys are?
Sure, as I mentioned, both surveys, we digest them in the BLPT to see what sorts of trends we can notice, both in terms of what the school is doing well and what student suggestions make about where we might make some alterations and some improvements. Both from the perspective of students who just finished 9th grade and from the students who spent 4 years here. They're not numerical surveys, or they're not fill-in-the-blank surveys. They're narrative surveys with 4 or 5 questions that VLPT developed. We can certainly boil those down and compile those and share them with the board. And happy to do that.
I think that would be useful information for us.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Deirdre.
Yeah, I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I just want to thank the 3 of you. This is our last meeting of the school year. And I just, every month you come and give a report to us about a lot of fantastic things that are going on in your schools. And it's really important for us to hear it. At our last meeting, we had a conversation, a substantive conversation related to what some challenges are given these Common Core standards. And the conversation was about, do teachers have enough flexibility to be creative in a classroom? Are the standards developmentally appropriate? And it's a conversation we need to continue to have. But what you guys share with us every month is that a lot of creative things are happening in our school. And I had stumbled upon an article that the National Education Association had on their website about maintaining creativity in the classroom, even with Common Core standards. And one of the things I talked about is administrative support to teachers for taking risks and being creative and thinking outside the box. And whether it's the Civil War lesson or the books journey or like compounds, it seems like you guys make a lot of use of allowing kids to leave the classroom and do creative work. So I just really want to thank you, because we're under a lot of pressure not to do that. And anecdotally, you hear about school districts that are focusing exclusively on test taking. And, it's just a point of pride for me personally, and I think for all of us, that when you come here, you demonstrate a commitment to really a rich environment for kids to grow in. That's not about what a test score is. So I want to just thank you for that and continue to support that.
Other comments? All right, thank you. We'll move on to board committee reports. And we'll start with facilities.
Hi.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's me. So I'll be brief. We were informed that the building condition survey will be taking place this summer, and Tetra Tech is engaged to visit our campuses in July. Sheldon and Tom spoke to us a little bit about the relationship between this step in the process and then coming forward with ideas for a potential referendum. And we have given you some supporting documents about the conversation we had. I'll defer to Tom to speak to those if you have questions about them. But if in fact we do decide, based on the building condition survey, that we would like to move forward with a potential referendum, we will most likely want to discuss that this summer and identify it as one of our goals. So that's a big kind of question mark next to that. The idea would be if we were going to schedule a vote for October 2016, which these timelines give us some kind of parameters for how we would do that, we would need to be talking about this very soon. It's a much smaller capital project than the one that was undertaken 10 years ago in this district. It would be approximately $3 to $4 million, and really the purpose of the project would be to maintain current facilities, not for massive expansion of anything. There are some smaller projects that are going to be undertaken this summer. The BMS Tech Lab project, which at the time of our meeting was still up in the air. We can hear more about that later. Some repair of the water heater in the high school, middle school, and perhaps some work on the boiler. But those were sort of the things that were called out by Sheldon as needing attention this summer. Laura shared with us information about composting, so that was circulated within the group, and we'll return to it at our next meeting. And we do hope to meet, possibly, we're hoping to meet over the summer if need be. So it seems like that's what all the committee reports are going to say today.
Deirdre?
Yeah, so would it be appropriate for the board to schedule some time for a more detailed discussion about this, moving forward, and when would that be? I'm just sort of wondering should we just wait for you'll have another meeting and then we'll have opportunities to really speak more in depth about what next steps to take? I mean, when would a board discussion happen about this?
I think the BCS is to be done over the summer, so once we have that report completed, I would suspect that would be the appropriate time for us to kind of hash out what was determined by the BCS, and then we can kind of discuss it as a board as to where we should go with it, because there may be projects that are identified that need to be done that will be more costly than we could put in the regular budget.
Right, okay.
I know there's, one of the things that's in the 5-year plan or whatever is the one of the roofs. So, that's a, big ticket item, so to speak. So hopefully we'll have information once the BCS is completed.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing the BCS during the window in which we're supposed to do it, but a little on the early side, so that we have some data from that process to actually lay out on the table, along with they will put timelines on when these things need to be done, so then we can see if it makes more sense to do them all together in a small capital project or not. So we'll actually be more than spitballing it. If we had the discussion today, that's what we'd be doing. If we had the discussion in a couple of months, we'll actually have a report in front of us to go off.
Yeah, and I appreciate the timetable information already shared with us, because there's, we should do all the preparatory work we can and our own thinking about this as we gather more information, so I appreciate that.
And involving the community, which
Right.
would be a crucial step in terms of bringing that to voters.
Yes, absolutely.
Laura?
So did they give you a sense of how long the actual survey is going to take them? And are we doing both buildings or just this?
Oh, it's the whole district. It's the whole district. They usually come out there. It doesn't take too long. I mean, this is the first time we used Tetra Tech. Previously used EMG. But, once they go out, they take a look at everything. They come back with questions. They delve a little further. We're hoping that it will be ready for September to be able to present it to the facilities committee so that they talk. It does take quite a while to compile it all together. And the biggest, and I think the part that you have to really look at a lot, and that is the cost that they put on it. I mean, they're not going to get right down into it like that. They're going to give an overall general estimate of what it is. And that's one of the things that's in there is to take a look about doing an RFP for a project management. Well, they'll add an architect so they can really then, once we really define what we're looking at that we consider to be the most important things to address, then they'll get real firm numbers on what that would look like. They'll give us a good ballpark of what it is, but there's some things that aren't added into those numbers. There's the architect itself, there's inflation factors that have to be, because what we decide now could be voted on by the community in October 2016. There's not a shovel on the ground for another 18 months. So it's a long process. A lot of things can happen in between now and then, but it's a good way of going about it. It's good. And the other good thing too is, and it's something that I kind of knew in the back of my head, but Chuck from Bernie Donegan's office, who's our financial consultant for any type of bond things like we did the refinancing of the bond, that he points out in the year 2018, our debt service drops off. Not tremendously, but one of the issues is done and over with that we went out and refinanced. One of them's coming off, and actually it works out good because the time in which that would be going on is the time that this is going off. So it won't have as big as a financial impact to the community as if it was just added on top of what we already have. So that's a helpful thing, but we'll have to see a lot more once we get that report from them, because sometimes, they may find something we never thought of, because we had another outfit look at it one time before, and maybe they see something that no one has seen before, and we got something to deal with here. I hope that's not the case, because Sheldon is very much on top of these things, so I don't think there will be anything that surprises us, but I think the biggest thing of all is really looking at the roofs. I mean, that could be a minor project, or it could become a big project, so we'll get a good idea, because that's one of the things that we're going to do at Tetra Tech is do roof scans, so we can see really what is below it and whether or not there's anything intimate. Yes, thank you very much. And, we just have to go from there. More intimate. Come back.
All right. Other questions? Deirdre?
Just a comment, I'm a huge supporter of composting, so I really
Yes.
support
Yes.
going down that road.
Why not?
We reduced our personal waste at home by half, I would say, by having compost pile.
Okay.
Great.
We'll return to that in our next meeting.
Yes.
All right. Finance Committee.
So we first kind of reviewed this past year's budget. Some of the numbers are still estimates, but we reviewed this past year's budget and we spent about 99% of the budget, which is much closer than years past. And it's Tom's feeling that it's better that we not spend as closely this coming year. There's just too many expenses that we don't really have control over. We looked at some of the things that came in higher than expected. That was special ed, supplies, the wireless project, technology, substitutes, long-term substitutes specifically, and transportation. Some areas that we had savings, are the fuel cost this year. And then on the revenue side, we had no tuition students. And then, but overall, the revenue was a little bit higher than predicted. We next talked about the transportation bid update. So the bids are due June 30th, and so hopefully, it depends on BOCES's schedule, or we'll get that on the 14th or the 28th. Tom also updated us on the meeting he had with Larry Fiber, who's a transportation consultant, and it looks like we'll be able to save some more bus runs by optimizing the buses that we have now. Then Larry Anthony joined us to talk about the cafeteria, and we talked about a possible price increase on the lunch for next year. We looked at prices for other districts, and currently our lunch price is the highest of districts in the area. There was milk and breakfast prices are a little bit all over the place, as far as what other districts charge. They're going to be switching to the biodegradable products, which is going to be an increase to the program. And he's also looking at bringing in Hudson Valley Fresh milk with a grant. So the committee felt based on a lot of the changes that went on this year, and the price that we charge, that price increase maybe should wait and see if the program grows based on a lot of the changes that we made. But it was okay with an increase in the breakfast price, because that right now is pretty much just covering the cost of providing that. So a slight increase in that in the high school and middle school. The committee thanked Larry for Anthony for all his work this year and our successor this year that we had. Tom, you filled out this form. It's
School district income verification.
So basically, Tom will be looking at what residents fill out on their income tax as far as what school they belong, district they belong to. Sometimes that's filled out inaccurate, and that reflects on our
Combined wealth ratio.
So that if we have too many people that don't actually belong in our district, that could be a problem. So Tom will be going through and making sure that just people that actually live in the district are reporting that they live in the district. And the letter transfers that was in your packet.
Questions? Okay. Move on to the audit committee.
Those are mine. We also were visited by Larry Anthony. The focus of our meeting was to review operations and his impressions of how things were going in the cafeteria. After his first year, we shared with him the internal auditor's report and then the follow-up report with their suggested, recommended procedural changes, which all are sort of wrapped around the nutrition program that we use. Currently, we've been using it as a point of sale system, and it's been pretty effective in terms of tracking sales. But there's a lot more muscle behind this program, which we haven't been able to utilize yet. Larry's been doing monthly manual inventory reports, but by doing that, he's been able to manage our food and what we have in the coolers much more efficiently than in the past. We asked him what he wanted to see in the future, and there are a lot of details that are required by federal and state reporting for safety controls and inventories and recipe counts and nutritional information, and it'll make your head spin. So he is hopeful and actually feels that the only way we can use nutrition to its fullest capacity is if each of the cook managers has a computer that they can access this web-based system that we have in district. Without that computer, he's printing up recipes and delivering paper to each of the cook managers. So we tried to do a little brainstorming about the possibility of repurposing current hardware in the district that's not being used in classrooms and stripping those down for just web-based work and print capacity. So Tom's going to talk to Steve Jensen about that. And once he's got, if we are able to find the hardware, he he's able to implement that, then he can really look at the nutrition units and modules and see what's going to be most effective for Rhinebeck moving forward. So we're going to be looking forward to inviting him back in a couple of months, and Ginger's thinking maybe we should have
I think so, especially since I am on the audit and finance committee, back to back.
she gets on.
And you need, it only makes sense.
Taste test.
The chicken fajitas that day. That sounds good.
So I
Go
take
ahead,
her
go ahead.
first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have two questions for you. The first one is, I recall some time ago, there was some discussion about Red Hook and Rhinebeck using two different computer point-of-sale systems. And I was wondering if you discussed that with Larry and, his sort of integrating or finding a way to balance those two systems.
Well, I think he's doing the best he can with both systems. Unless one of the districts buys the others, there's no real easy entry point for consolidating those systems. But they both have the ability to do the inventory controls and those sorts of things. They just do it a little bit differently. So he's trying to figure out, and he's going to spend the summer figuring out how to input all of this information into those systems.
That's one of the big things was last year, if you remember, he got hired very late into the summer, so he did not have a whole lot of time to look at either system. So he'll have that chance this year, because Red Hook uses a program called Lunchbox. It is more expensive than our current version, so hopefully, if anything, they look to us, or they consider us a satellite building, as opposed to being a whole new district with licensing and all that. So we'll see.
So there'll be
He's
more
gonna-
discussion about that.
Yeah, he's looking
Okay.
into that over the summer.
Okay. And my second question is about adding computers for managers to use. Will it be necessary to train these cook managers on the use of computers? I would think that most of them are not used to using them in their jobs at present.
Well, we did talk about the professional development that would be required for them. Because these are web-based systems, there's not a huge learning curve. We imagine that most people have been on a computer and been on a web browser and had to navigate certain internet applications. This is the same thing. It's just a matter of how to manage the specific food service program.
So it's not going to be necessary to train people in programs in order for them to.
He more wants to be able to email them email it as opposed to trying to deliver, stop by and that, to be able to do an email out. Just easier to communicate for him. There is, like I say, the nutrition, if we delve into the inventory part, how to update that inventory easily, quickly. There might be a little bit of training there. We're only talking an hour or two or something like that. So it won't be very, very extensive, but and the other good thing is my business office is there to help too. That's what they've been doing with the point of sale system, so it'd be no different when we get into inventory. When it gets into the recipes and nutritional value, that's clearly just on Mr. Anthony's part.
Thank you.
Deirdre?
Yeah, so I just want to say, I in a serious note, I was at both meetings of audit and finance, one after another, that Larry was at, and, really, he could have talked another couple hours about food service and what he does, and I think it's really just been enlightening to me and important to hear the human aspect of what he does. Talking on the phone with distributors about, are the strawberries good this week or not? No, they're not so good, try this, so then your recipe has to shift, or this sold yesterday, the kids are like that, so we have less of it, how do we get more? What's going on with the federal government commodities, and how do you make best use of that? He's terrific in his creativity and his interest in food, along with meeting these food safety requirements that, frankly, I was unaware of. It makes sense about, what is the temperature of something when it comes off the truck, record it. What's the temperature in the cooler, what's the temperature at service? So if you're going to put it back in the cooler, what's the temperature? And recording all that data. So his management is doing a lot. But I think one thing that we wanted to also communicate to him in terms of attrition is let us know what's useful about it when you've had a chance to do it and what isn't useful about it, because there is this other human element. So how to help give him the tools that he needs and certainly not burden him with doing things electronically that may not be useful. So it was terrific. It was really great. He's been doing a great job, really. Yeah.
All right, other questions? Okay, school start time.
Also mine. So Larry Fiber, who Diane Hartford was also at our meeting, and I'm going to sort of do a hop skip through this because it was a lot that we went over. We reviewed what we currently do of the buses that we have, how long it takes to load them, get them turned around from the high school to Chancellor. Then we looked at Larry's attempt at optimizing our bus runs. And he came up right away with the potential for being able to use 1 or 2 fewer buses in high school and 3 or 4 fewer buses at the elementary school, which lit everybody's eyes up.
There's a lot of excitement.
And, you know, he was very conservative in his estimates in terms of how fast the buses were going, how far they were going, how many kids they could fit on the buses. So he was really looking at operational changes for efficient loading and departure of schools without even starting to look at the time of the school start. So these were all bonuses before he looked at shifting the time. Then we looked at how far students had to walk to their bus stop, and elementary kids are allowed to walk 0.3 miles from their driveway to their pickup point. And what we found is that 50% of our kids walk 0.1 miles, so that would be from their end of their driveway to the corner. It's really not very far. We sort of have this toilet service in the district. So if that changes, there's going to be parent concern that we all recognize, and it'll have to be a point of discussion in open forum with parents and community members about moving actual bus stops for kids and how we're going to do those things. We then shifted our conversation to this optimized route with an altered start time. And the biggest concern is getting the buses back to Chancellor for the afternoon load. It seems unlikely that if we move the high school start time by half an hour, that they're going to be able to get the buses back and ready to roll again at 3:30. We're trying to find ways that we can shave 5 minutes here and there. We looked at how we could load the buses at the high school. We noted it during our meeting that they left 5 minutes early. So that was really exciting. They were gone by the So we're also talking about ways that the dismissal could be changed at Chancellor in terms of getting kids corralled a little bit so that not every teacher is delivering every kid to each bus. So we'll talk a little bit more about that at the building level. We looked at the effect of school clubs, and it would appear that clubs would need to meet for a shorter period of time. So we're wondering, is it possible to have clubs meet twice a month for a shorter period of time rather than once a month for a longer period of time? We also looked at the early morning CLS clubs, and they won't be affected at all because those kids generally get delivered and sit in the cafeteria for half an hour before their activities begin in the morning anyway. So Larry said, there are all these potential things we could do, but what he really wanted was some parameters from the committee. So we started with it can't cost a dime more. And if we save money, great. And how can we do that? Can we do it by shifting the high school, middle school by 30 minutes and keeping Chancellor the same, or do we move Chancellor 15 minutes later? So the big question for the board now is, would we consider moving the start time of Chancellor by 15 minutes if we have to accommodate the later start time for the high school and middle school? Which one of these things? So for next steps, we sort of came to the realization that this year was our sort of fact-finding year, and We haven't had a chance to engage the community, parents, students, any of, even internal staff members, so we really like next year to be the education and outreach year to the district. Our internal folks and external folks, we want to engage the community about why we're thinking about this, gauge their opinions about whether or not they feel like it would be a worthwhile change. When we originally started this, we were looking at 3 different options. Just shifting the time by 30 minutes, single tripping, so K through 12 are on the buses at the same time, or flip-flopping the schedules, having a chance to start early. The single tripping is going to cost us more money. We can't get all the kids on the buses that we have at the same time. So that's just a non-starter. We're taking that off the table. The flip-flopping option impacts the sports schedules and the after-school clubs too significantly. And we lose the late bus, so that doesn't really seem like a viable option either. So the committee will meet over the summer. And we're going to sort of put together our next steps, pros, cons of moving it, not moving it, develop a timeline for engaging the community next year, and also start to talk about how we develop surveys for parents and students separately. So we can get that.
Deirdre.
I just want to add to your admirably comprehensive overview of our conversation that this group, I think, has talked to a lot of people over the course of this year. We've heard a lot. Actually, I've been struck by the open-mindedness of really pretty much everyone we've sat down and talked with. And Larry Fiber was like a ball of fire. He was so excited about helping us to, find better ways to transport our students and to kind of think outside the box about what we could do in terms of the timetable issues and challenges. So he was very inspiring, I think, to all of us in the group. And I really hope that people who are watching this or in the community who have come up to each of us individually throughout the year with these questions, where are we at with this? Where's our thinking? That this is very much to reaffirm what you've said, Laura, been a time for us to kind of clear some groundwork. And next year is about us really finding out how deep support is in our community for contemplating such a change. We have heard from people who've been admirably active and come out to our events to speak with us. But of course, we want to reach out to everyone. So that would include surveys. That would include, trying to communicate with people who aren't able to come to our coffees or our events or to meetings. And that would be a very, very important sort of next step if we were contemplating such a change. So really, this is like a 2-year process for those who are kind of wanting to know what's the timeline, what's happening.
I think I saw Lisa next.
I have 2 questions again. Not the same question. The first one, I think, it may just be a typo, or I may be misreading it. So under summer meeting, you generate pro-con risk for scenarios. Am I understanding that there's really one scenario?
There's only one scenario.
Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. So then that may obviate my next question, but let me ask it anyway. If I understood your report correctly, you were saying that Larry Fiber thinks that we may be able to realize some money savings by reducing the numbers of buses that we run. So if that's the case, is there any way to build that into the idea of single tripping? In other words, if we don't need the number of buses that we have now, does that change what we think of the monetary cost of single tripping?
Probably not. And what we have to keep in mind is that we're going out for another transportation.
Yes.
So that since we can consolidate some buses, it might not be as big a savings as we'd hope because we're going to have fewer numbers to play with. So
If you do a single trip, we're looking probably anywhere from 16 to 18 buses instead of 11. I mean, currently we have 13, but we're looking to go down to 10 or 11 now. But if you go to single trip, you're back up to 18. And there's really not a big price difference whether the buses are out there for 3 hours or out there for 5 hours. It's not prorational, that's for sure. You would hope it would be, but it's not.
Okay.
So that's the big thing. And you did say about the scenarios, I think we should put the pros and cons of all the scenarios because it shows we did the homework. And this is why we eliminated this one. We looked at
Do you need to share it?
these were just too many cons versus the few pros, and that's why it's eliminated. And they've done the work, so.
Good point. Diane?
The other issue with the single mom is that it would be much harder for the bus company to get back the drivers, especially if you bus out.
Yeah, that was the other one.
Only the 2 runs, so you'd be asking them to work less, more. So we felt like.
Yeah, getting enough bus drivers right now is tough enough.
The other thing that I want to say is a lot of community members are anxious and they feel like you're just looking at a half-hour shift and, I'm just going to do it, but there's so many details involved when you just shift even a half hour, so many things that it affects. And we're just trying to take the time to look at every little thing, after school clubs, absolutely everything will affect. So it's, as we've seen, much more complicated than just looking at a half-hour shift.
And we want to do it right, of course.
So I just, I actually have a question, which is, as I was reading this report, I was just wondering, do we have data on, how many students are actually riding the bus daily?
No, we do not take attendance.
Okay,
We don't take attendance at all.
okay. Because I know we have to plan for, how many students could potentially ride a bus, but I'm just wondering if we actually have hard data that says, how many kids ride.
They have the potential to have that revenue told us, but not.
In the afternoon, but not for the morning.
And I think that's something too, because once we go through this optimizing, it would be interesting to see, how many children, students are getting on the high school, middle school. Are they coming here in the morning half full, 3/4 full? How many people get on the bus when they go home? So I think next year, especially in the fall, we should take some sort of attendance, just general, not, when you think of doing it, when bus drivers do attendance, it's actually kid for kid for kid, who's on the bus, and that, you pay extra for that. But if we can get a general idea of 20 kids got off of this one, 45 got off of this one, that would become give us some good data so that we can use that. And how many kids get on the buses? Like day?
Season.
Yeah, and it will
Varies
shift.
by
There's
season.
a lot more, in the morning, like, this.
You're right with that one because of only having basketball in the winter time. A lot of times parents don't like their kids to drive in bad weather, so they got to take the bus instead of taking a car. Some of the other things that we have to look at too is potentially if you do make a change to the shift and say a half hour later, like some parents, they may say, you need to get on the bus now because, I got to go to work. Where that may change significantly, move it a half hour, and the parent says, no, you have to get on the bus because I have to get to work. And likewise, it could end up and say, well, that works perfect. I can drop you off and then go to work. So those are some things that, even if we had the data today, that's going to change no matter what we do. But I think that's a good idea, Mark, that we can set something up so we can start getting head
I was
counts.
just thinking in terms of, if we're going to bid the contract, that might be something that we need to put in the contract languages that you have to take account or something, but that's for you to worry about. Deirdre.
Yeah, so I just want to thank the committee because this was an ad hoc committee that was, just like formed sort of unexpectedly in response to parent interest, and I know the county superintendents as well. So thank you. You guys have done a tremendous job collecting a lot of information. A couple of comments, though. One is I am surprised that generally our students experience door-to-door stops. Because I'll just say a few years ago, prior to your joining the district, Tom, we did consolidate to bus stops, and so I thought we were still using stops. Now, obviously, that was a long time ago, and then the population is shifting, and so I don't know what happened. But
No, we most certainly, we do not do door-to-door service. We don't stop at every driveway or anything of that nature. We find what the right spot is for that neighborhood, and that's where it is.
Okay.
But we try to make sure that no one's walking any long distance. So we don't want anybody walking a half a mile or anything of that nature. So, yeah, so we try to make it so that It seems as though it's door-to-door, but it's not. The only people who really get door-to-door are the kindergartners. That's it, because they have to be met by a parent when they're dropped off.
Well, and also, I mean, just historically, that was a response to very long bus
Oh, yeah, that would make it.
bus routes, so it was consolidated, so the students didn't have to be on the bus that long. We have fewer students in general,
Right.
so.
True.
But there's some
That
bus
might-
spots where we're picking up 15
Right.
students
Right,
and
right.
things of that nature.
And I will just say, in case there is more bus stop making in terms of adjusting this, you know, at that time, I was expecting, I don't know if you guys remember, like, I was thinking, we're going to get a lot of complaints about this, and we did not. So, at that time, that was not a controversial thing to do. You asked the question then, should we think about Chancellor moving start end time 15 minutes later? So a question I have is, and obviously a lot of community input would need to happen around this concept, but so the problem though is more at the end of the school day for Chancellor. It is not an issue according to
Morning
the
is
analysts.
not.
In morning is the afternoon. So I would just put out there, I don't know, because there are a lot of different responses to school times shifting. And one of them is, as you were alluding to, Tom, well, I go to work, I can't.
Right.
So now my little kid has to go to school 15 minutes later, that's a problem in our household. So one thing I might want to just throw out there is, what if Chancellor just ended 10, 15 minutes later, but didn't start any time differently, would be another option, if that's where you need a few extra minutes. It seems that he says every 5 minutes saved
Counts.
would help. So it's just a concept. If the issue for parents is, where am I and how do that I need that time for my kid to be at school because I need to get to work. So not shifting both, just adding a few more minutes to the day. But then I guess that's a contract issue.
Yeah, that's
Even
the
10
thing
more
you bump
minutes,
into
right?
there, yeah.
Unless it all shifts, because that's what the hours add up, right?
Yeah, because we don't have set start and end times for the teacher days. We have, their day is X amount of minutes long.
Right.
So we've got to
Right.
massage that. That's part of the challenge that we're looking at. So.
Right. Well, do you guys want an answer? I think it's
Yes.
worth pursuing. Good. But I think that is where, that's where, how it impacts the smaller kids is really a whole other family issue.
Yeah.
I also think it's, after listening to Larry for upwards of an hour, it became more obvious to me how many moving parts there are with this scenario. 5 minutes here and there makes a difference, and all of these pieces have to come together. So I think we'll wind up working out different scenarios and then start asking people, how do you feel about this? This is what it means if we do this. This is the downside of doing this. Even with that one basic scenario, there are a whole bunch of moving parts there. So that's, I think, what we're going to have to try to work out early this year, get feedback in an effort to see if we can make a change for the, for the 16-17 school year. It'll also give us an opportunity to try some stuff out. Like if we're going to do a different dismissal scenario at Chancellor, it gives us some time to actually try one or more options to see what works, as opposed to trying it out the first day of a new school year, which could be not pretty.
Right. Oh, go ahead.
What do I see first?
And something that we talked about also is that even if we decide to go ahead and do this, all the details that we thought of, we won't really know some of the problems
Right.
until we implement it.
Right.
For instance, the traffic, how many kids will drive or how it'll affect the traffic coming through town. We can guess and hope, but we don't really know how that will happen until it happens. How many more kids may drive the bus because we're shifting half hour.
Right.
Right.
We won't know some of
That's
these things,
right.
and we kind of have to
That's a good point.
test it out in the first year.
Right.
A lot of things can change based on the schedule and life.
And honestly, the meeting with Larry sort of opened up our eyes to the possibility of just re-looking at the operations of transportation. So if very little else, we're going to do is take note procedures.
Very true.
And that might afford us the 10 or 15 minutes that we're looking for.
Right. So just one comment on that, just because you wrote the notes, not to sort of get into the minutia of it right now, but the issue about sort of giving the middle school, high school kids less time to get to the bus and corralling the little kids in a more efficient way. I just think those can be challenges that I would just recommend not putting pressure on all the kids in the school district to get to buses quickly in order to make this work. I think we want to have a comfortable amount of time because that does affect school climate too. The end of a school day, particularly for older kids, is a time when you're socializing and talking to a teacher, maybe going to see Mr. Davenport to wish him that he feels better. And, those sort of climate issues could be negatively impacted by having 9 minutes to get your bus. So just a thought.
Well, that's a great point, but one of the things we found out just that day, he had been working his time, he being Larry had been working his times on the basis of the buses pulling out of the high school at 2:30, and that day we were meeting, somebody stuck his head out the window and it was 25 after, and the buses were gone. I mean, we weren't rushing kids out that day, so it's occurring to us, well, it sounds like unless there's some unusual situation, that's when they're going anyway. So there was 5 minutes without doing anything.
Very good.
Yeah, that was exciting.
All right, anything else for the school start time committee? All right. Move on to board goals.
Okay, well, I placed in your packet, and those of you who have sat around this table for any amount of time know that we have made it a practice at the last meeting of our school year to at least take a few minutes to look at our board goals and to reflect on them, not for purposes of necessarily patting ourselves on the back or beating ourselves up, but to kind of set the stage for our thinking as we go into the process of developing goals for the next school year. So this is them. I also put that thing that you sent us in there as well in terms of applying a model to goal development, which I think is worth considering as we go into a new phase of goal development. So, Lisa.
I think that it's worthwhile to think about how well we met our goals and also how well we thought our goal, we composed our goals, perhaps I should say, at the outset. One area where there's been some discussion over the past couple of weeks is over Goal 3, which while in the abstract seemed like a great idea, I think we all have the sense at this point was perhaps more difficult to implement as a goal, as something that can be made concrete than some of the other goals. And so I wonder if there is a way to take the motivation that resulted in this goal, which we all agree is a positive one, and sort of put it somewhere else where we can use it better. Goals drive a lot. They drive how we judge the employees of the district. They judge that they drive, what communications administration has with the staff. They drive some educational activities as well. And so maybe moving forward, this goal 3 can be useful to us as kind of like a case study. How do you think about what a good goal is? What's an example of something that was a laudable impulse, not necessarily a good goal? And then the other thing I just wanted to throw out there is, I think that the goal number 4, which is something that we've been talking about every single year I've been
It's true.
and I'm sure for a lot longer than that. This year, we saw a lot of movement in terms of that goal, which is wonderful. Very, very happy about that. And I wonder if, not to say, well, this is no longer important or we've met every aspect of this, because obviously neither of those are true, but whether we have now gotten to a point with this, accomplishment of this goal, to be able to say this is not something that we have to have as one of our signal goals. It's just something that sort of like carries through, like a through theme, like the food service program, and its continued steps towards viability on a number of different fronts. And I think that the Finance Committee's done yeoman's work on this in the past couple of years. And obviously, I know that they continue to do that.
Anyone else? Laura?
I wholeheartly agree with your comments. I don't know if you guys, well, Joe left it here at your desk. So this goal 3, best intentions and all that. So I found this in a NISBA document that I had, and the idea when we're beginning to formulate our goals about specificity and how do you measure that. I think those were the problems that we came up with around goal 3. The communication committee struggled with this for months on end. Like, how do you find out whether or not it's working? And there's a little bit of that with goal 1 too, in terms of how do you measure whether there's more collegial, collaborative, respectful communication, other than the fact that we're not hearing anything to the contrary. So it might be something for us to think of at our goal workshop in terms of, though it's an admirable thought, how do you actually put it in practice, and how do you determine whether or not it's been able to drive some of the forces that goals really should drive in the district. So. That was a tough note. And I also agree that food service maybe doesn't need to be tagged on our goals anymore, because we clearly are making great strides in the right direction.
One thing I feel like I learned through the process of this year, talking about these different goals, is that in a way, listing them all together suggests that they'll all be attacked in a similar fashion, that they're going to, food services, as we've already all noted, something we worked on for several years. It's come to fruition in a certain way now, and therefore it doesn't necessarily need to be on our to-do list of goals in the same way. And I do think it actually is meaningful to identify certain goals that we are not going to complete within a single year. So I think we just need to acknowledge that when we create such a goal, that this is going to be a long-term goal, a goal that we have, perhaps this particular set of indicators in the short run that we hope to meet, but we recognize is going to take place over time, just as this one did. And through a series of really, I think, shrewd, steps on the part of our administrators in district, we've gotten toward much closer to fulfilling the goals. So I would be reluctant not to put goals down that, somehow couldn't be finished always within a single calendar year.
Lisa?
I just want to speak to that. I think that's an excellent point. And, thinking about what's a goal and what's not really appropriate to be a goal. For example, the district maintaining financial stability is something that is of great importance to everybody at this table and everybody in the district, but it doesn't necessarily warrant being a goal,
right,
because it's something that we have been able to accomplish. It's something that we expect to continue to be able to accomplish, and we have been able to take the steps year after year to make sure is accomplished. On the other hand, and this is something that we've been talking about in facilities and that you highlighted earlier, to the extent that the board as a whole agrees that we should be thinking about formulating a capital project and a referendum, towards that effect, that would be something that would make sense to have as a goal, because it is something that we would agree needs to be accomplished, but will not be done just through the regular practices of the board and the administration and the district in general. We have to plan for, we have to obtain assistance in order to meet. And it's something that will not be
Right.
clearly in just one second.
Right.
Deirdre.
Yeah, I think this is a really good conversation, and it is one that over the years, the boards and different iterations have struggled with, is sort of what sort of visionary goals versus goals that are more concrete. And, I think you kind of highlighted well that the visionary goals can have a place even before they really get concretized. And it's also really good to say, well, if that's a laudable impulse, but how do we make that real? Are we ready to make that real? What are we talking about? So I think those are all really important conversations in reflecting on it. I will say in terms of numbers, though, and communication, I think just to say it out loud, we all know that Joe's embrace of Twitter, along with Steve Boucher, is a number. I mean, I always look, it's like 320 or so people who now get regular communications about things that are going on in the district, and it intersects with goal number 3 about celebrating educational progress, because many of those tweets are about accomplishments of our students or interesting and exciting things that are going on in the district. So and we could maybe even make better use of that, but for the first year, I think it's really terrific. I also, this is really just anecdotal, and I could just be wrong. It could be that the board is just being invited to more things, but this principals too were talking about the books journey, and oh my God, it was packed, and I just wondering, there were a couple other things that were mentioned by the principals. I just wonder, are we being invited, like are parents being invited to more things? I wonder, we were invited to a couple of classrooms for activities, and I don't know whether this
really great.
What that's about. I can't claim that it's a result of this goal, but in terms of that communication, if you're in a classroom with a bunch of parents looking at things kids are doing, it's, again, just anecdotal, but it certainly seems that way this year.
Laura.
Well, I'd like to tag on to that comment since Ed's still here. We love that. If the goal goes away, it doesn't mean we want to.
So, go ahead, Rick.
I'm reflecting back on goal number 3, because if I can claim anything in the goals, I think, because this is the first time I've said it in a long time, I was the new guy. I suggested the term celebration. I actually think I suggested the term celebration of Rhinebeck. Because my thinking at the time, and I kind of think I can recall this, I introduced it by saying what I've heard out on the street about the school system is always about the taxes. And my thought was that what we have to do, especially if the cap stays in effect, we have to convince this community that as wonderful as, and we did hear it tonight, we hear it every month, we hear wonderful things that are being done. All of that continues outside of the school after they leave the school. I mean, we have a graduate of the system here as the president of the school board. Seriously, as the president of the school board. We have a lot of those people out there. And my thinking at the time, this may blow your mind because it was so hard to just do internal. My thinking at the time was that we need to find some way of saying to the folks out there, this is the most important institution you have here. And look at what it's produced. So don't lowball us. Don't say you have to keep the taxes to 2% or to 1.9% or whatever it has to be. The state may say that, it may relax that, it may not. But somewhere along the line here, it would be good if we could say, so why don't you support us financially? Every college on earth. I just got this thing because our fourth child graduated from Rutgers, and they're clapping themselves on the back because they just produced $1 billion at Rutgers University in a very small period of time from their graduates. Obviously, they're looking for us to help out. I don't see that that's out of line for us to think about that also if the tax cap continues to be in existence, because it's going, as we've talked about, it's going to crush your program here somewhere or other along the line. So that was the thinking. That was the thinking. So it remains an important goal to me. It remains even a more global goal than we have stated it here, and therefore I think even a more important and more difficult goal to achieve. So maybe it's a 10-year goal, or maybe it's a slow process type of goal. I guess I'll stop.
Deirdre.
I just want to say that as we devise our goals for next year, thinking about where it's going to live, who's going to be discussing it every month, what committees will sort of end up taking on the lion's share of that discussion. It did seem as though goal 3 sort of, I don't know, maybe other committees were talking about it, but my sense was communications really was the place where it happened. So I actually feel very attached still to this goal. It's just not clear to me in terms of measurable, concrete actions. We hadn't processed it enough as we put it down in the present form we have it in terms of coming up with an action plan. I still think that as something that we want to either roll into the communication goal or perhaps think about external growth of support for the school district, that maybe that's something we would talk about in a very different way. But I would love to revisit it when we sit down to do our goals planning this summer.
Okay, I'll just add, while we may not necessarily be happy with, what has outwardly shown about accomplishments with these goals, I sense out there that, they're working. The communication goal that, people are talking to their teachers and their principals and things that, maybe we didn't see before. The CDEP plan, it's got kind of a late start, and even if we made the progress we wanted to make, I still don't think that we'd be finished with CDEP. It's more of a long-term thing. And, we've made a lot of progress with the food service goal, definitely, over this year, but, I think there's still more work that can be done. Whether we want to continue that as a goal or not is another question, but, and certainly when you talk about celebration of educational progress, we have a lot the recognition. I mean, we just had the two awards nights, and there's the 5th grade moving up, 8th grade moving up, kindergarten graduation, all those things that those are all celebrations of things that happen, and they've been going on for some time, but they're there. So okay, so anything else on the goals, Diane?
Mark, I think that's a good point. I think every year we try to come up with goals, and we talk about should be visionary, should be very specific, measurable, like what's the right way, should it just be Joe to figure it out?
Joe divine what we were thinking at the time.
The right way to do it every year, and I think sometimes they're more visionary, and then at the end of the year we want to go, okay, well, how do we measure it? Well, if it wasn't a measurable goal, then we can't be expecting to measure it. I mean, communicate, the first goal was kind of interesting to me this year because how do we know if teachers and parents are talking? We don't really know, but what came out of it was in every building and everywhere people were talking about communication. All schools everywhere. So you have to hope that didn't trickle down and that there was more communication, but I think that it kind of took on a new life, maybe different than what we meant, but certainly communication was a theme that was heard everywhere. So maybe it wasn't exactly what we intended, or maybe it was, we won't know, but it's still a good thing to come out of that goal. I think every year, you kind of look at what you want to be important for the next year. Sometimes they might be very concrete, and sometimes not. It's okay. It's okay to have different goals. Just kind of what's important and what we want the district to look like next year, or what kind of rises to the top. Instead of something falls off this list, food services doesn't mean we don't care about it anymore. It the heck, doesn't matter. That's not the point, just kind of like what we want, the most important 2 or 3 year things.
Okay.
Well said.
All right, so shall we move on to our next item, the annual review of board operational procedures? Shall we?
There's a mouthful.
So as we had in our packets, there is a policy that says we're supposed to review our annual operational procedures once a year. So this is our time. Lisa?
Well, I note that the second sentence on the policy says, the superintendent of schools shall participate in this review and suggest ways by which the board can improve its functioning as a deliberative and legislative body. So, what do you say?
Wow.
That's twice this meeting.
I mean, if you think we're doing exactly what we should be doing, then that's fine, but I bet that there's room for improvement.
Well, one thing that has come up any number of times during my time here, and sometimes it's better than others, and it's probably good to be reminded, is that we do have a limited amount of time each evening when we meet. Our board policy discourages, if not forbids us from going past 11 for, I think, a lot of good reasons. We're just not productive when it gets that late. We're pretty good about adhering to that. But I think one area where we can make better use of our time, and I think it's the reason that a number of years ago, the board was very emphatic about not including board reports on the agenda unless they were meeting minutes that board members had before the meeting, is so we didn't spend a lot of time rehashing what's in the board minutes, that the board reports would expect that everybody's read these and that it'd be a brief overview and not a rehash of 2 or 3 pages. So, and it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes it does. So I just throw out that as a reminder that the more we can do our homework on those board reports before we get here, and it's more an opportunity to brief the community about what the board committees are talking about, and then allow questions to be raised. That's probably plenty. We shouldn't be spending an hour on board reports if we've read through this. Okay, that's just a way we can be more economical with the limited amount of time that we have. So I just throw that out as just a reminder. Sometimes it works better than others, but it's always a place where I think we can shave a little bit of valuable time. Lisa?
I'm just wondering, on that subject, we typically have board reports, basically, at the meeting after the committee report, the committee met. Occasionally it'll report
Typically,
late,
yes.
but typically that's the way it is. Do you think that there might be an increase in efficiency overall if we limited board reports to once a month, the way we have principals reports once a month?
I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because sometimes the nature of the board committee meetings and discussion is maybe more topical, more time sensitive than for other committees or at other times. So I would hate to say, yeah, we're only going to do these on the second meeting of the month, and now for some of us, we're going like 5 weeks from the meeting to the report out, and that may be too late. So my preference would be do it every week, just keep it brief. Be considerate of the amount of time we're saying what's already in writing. It's already in writing, we shouldn't need to talk it out to that extent anyways.
And one more question in terms of the use of the time that we have. This may have been dealt with in the past. I and I just don't know it, but has there ever been any consideration given to changing the start time of board meetings? There's nothing I know of that requires us to start at 7:30, so could we start at 7, maybe after another half an hour?
Could.
To me.
That'd be great.
I don't ever recall that having been brought up, to be honest with you, over my 17 years here, but that's not to say that it's a bad idea. I mean, can everybody,
Might finish.
this is a rhetorical question. It would rest on whether everybody can consistently be here by 7, that people aren't at home getting dinner on the table for their families and cleaning up, and it's a chore just to get here by 7:30, so if we move it to 7, now we're impacting your personal lives, and so that would be, I think, a consideration. I mean, 9 times out of 10, Tom and I are here right through, so wouldn't matter to us, and wouldn't kill me to get out of here half an hour earlier than we normally do if our business is,
I don't think
was
she's
finished.
saying we're going to end earlier.
Well, I didn't hear that, but I was just participating in this review and suggesting ways by which we can improve. So I'd be down with starting earlier if we could get out while we were a little fresher.
I'd be happy to end earlier too.
Yeah.
Diane?
A couple things. I mean, I don't think this year particularly we went late.
No.
Overall, compared to other years.
I agree.
Meetings, but we could certainly be earlier, but the community reports, I hear what you're saying. I think there are ways to trim them back a little bit, but I think they're more for, not for us, but for the public. Because that's where bulk of the work is done, and so I feel about that. That much, of course, like everything else, but on that. When I was looking at this, I think, and maybe it's just this board, I think that we're pretty good about correcting through the year, self-correcting when something comes up. An example would be with Joe's evaluation. I think we talked about that, because I think this would work better when we make changes as we go along. So I don't know that we, something doesn't work, that we just go, okay, this doesn't work what we're doing. I think that we're pretty good about changing it, so make it work more efficiently.
Okay. Do we feel we've met the requirement of the policy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So move on to good news. All right, good news.
We've heard a bunch today.
We're gonna hear
Tonight
Tom.
Yes. Rick?
I was actually unexpectedly home today, so I actually sat down and made a list, and much of which has been reported on already, so I won't be redundant with honoring Maureen Cunningham or mentioning, although I'm planning to be there the 5th grade moving up. I would report to you that Mrs. West's 5th grade has been able to donate money to 2 of the local food pantries as a result of McWeasel's cafe that she runs every year. And I'd like to say one other thing personally, because it's been brought up here a couple of times, and it's good news to me, and that is that I really appreciate when you folks, it's been done a couple of times recently, send along a notice that maybe we ought to look more closely at an article that you found someplace or other. That's good news to me. I really appreciate that, so.
Great. Other good news? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to old business.
I have one item of old, did you, go ahead, Deidre.
Yeah, I just, I don't really need an answer right now, but it just was occurring to me, we've had a little bit of discussion. I know that CDEP committee is looking at the vision, and core value statement, and I guess I don't have a lot of clarity on like what that continuing process is for what changes may or may not be made from there. And at some point, maybe to discuss that a little bit, because I guess it's just been like a little nagging thing for me. Like, I think in the past when that was developed, it was a very long process of a lot of conversation about it. And, I know Deirdre's brought up a couple of concerns about some of the wording, and, I think CDEP's meeting this summer, is that right? Or there's a committee meeting?
We're trying to, if we...
Yeah, so just, I guess just to put out there for old business that I think it's a change can be, those changes in that wording can be a really big deal. And, I think the board should very much be a part of the process of the iterations of that as they develop, so that we don't have a time when it comes before us to vote on, say, and maybe not everyone feels that it's a good change.
Well, I would only say to that, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong and you have a different slant on this, but I think we've only met twice this year. We've accomplished a lot in those 2 meetings, and I'm pretty sure we brought to the full board updates on that process, including suggestions for changes to that language and subsequent updates to that. So, and I would anticipate if and as that changes or other things are embraced by the CDEP committee, that we will report out to the full board. And if there's something there that you have questions about or is just not hitting you the right way, we would need and want to know so we can bring that back. Because you're right, ultimately, when the process is done, you'll get a document and we'll be asking you as a board to support that by approving it. So we'd rather do the tweaking earlier than wait till it's a fait accompli and then have board members say, I have some serious concerns about that. Well, we want to address those and discuss them sooner rather than later. So I would support wholeheartedly bringing that at least to our attention, because we're the ones who are sitting at those meetings, kind of representing you, Laura, more so than I, but I am as well. So good.
Okay,
good point,
I appreciate that, because I guess, as I'm reading through the board packet and reading various articles in this conversation about visionary goals versus concrete goals, I just want to, we live in a moment where there's a lot of pressure on us, and we've talked about that many times around this table, to guide our curriculum a certain way or classroom instruction a certain way, and I just have thought of that vision statement, the vision, and whole child, this is a really important opportunity to communicate what our vision is and what our values are. And, in the various iterations, just kind of personally, I haven't wrapped my mind around it all. So I just want to have, be a part of that conversation. So I appreciate the reporting you've done thus far, and CDEP has a big agenda. That's just a piece of it. So,
but it's the piece that will catapult the rest of our discussion. So, if any members have questions, concerns about the current iteration of that mission, vision, core value statement, it would be better to hear that, as Joe said, from you guys when those concerns arise, because then we can, as we did at our last meeting, we can talk about those niggling things that didn't quite read right. So.
Right. Okay, thanks.
My old business was just, and this is really niggling, but I'll niggle a bit. I'll give you where I'm at with these, because at our next meeting, we need to adopt these. That's right. I don't think anybody took anything away from anybody. So that's what I have at this point. If it is an error, if I've put you down for something you didn't want to be down for, please flag it to my attention tonight or tomorrow, because otherwise, this is what I'll bring to the organizational meeting on July 14th. And I'd rather have us work this stuff out beforehand than sitting there that night, talking about making good use of our meeting time, so. There are literally a couple of changes on this from the current year.
Sitting together every committee next week.
Who's together?
Mark and Diane and I.
Oh, yeah, oh. We can just do that on Monday.
That's just one long day, right?
So what did you,
Mine look good, too.
I switched to finance.
and who left finance? Diane. Oh, Diane, you left finance.
Who,
Oh,
you left
actually,
finance?
no, Mark is not it.
I did.
You left
Mark's got
finance.
finance.
Okay, that's okay. It's okay. All right, that's good.
So if you have anything, just give it to me before, well, as soon as possible, but definitely before the 14th. So that's my old business.
And I saw Diane had your hand up.
Just we were talking about goals, did we set, when are you working on those?
Yes, August 20th
Oh,
Yeah.
in the morning.
August?
I don't recall.
August-
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, there was
Yeah, August 20th.
I'm sure.
If you want to change it,
It's 9 a.m., right?
that's what I've got on my calendar.
No, I
In a moment of madness, you guys agreed to that, but
We're doing it as a workshop or a retreat?
yeah, we'll do it as a workshop.
And that's not, we don't think that's too big for everyone else? Not for us, for, set goals.
Well, the earlier is better, but there have been some years when we've had that in October, so.
August.
sometimes in the, sometimes in the past, one thing has been to email the president of the board ideas ahead of that meeting, and then, or it could be done another way, just share your ideas with everybody, or, that way people can mull over ideas ahead of it.
Yeah, that is a good
Be
idea.
more efficient.
Yes,
We'll
definitely.
talk about that like at our later July meeting.
Yep.
It's worked reasonably well, at least to put some things on the table and.
Right.
We could talk about it more.
Yeah.
All right. Other old business? Okay. Public comment. There's one more opportunity for public comment. Seeing none, move on to other.
One quick other, and it's really not for really discussion tonight, but I was talking to a community member who said, it's great that you do the YouTube videos and, nobody's ever coming to the meetings. Would it ever be possible to do sort of like a GoToMeeting thing, set up something technologically so people can call in and listen to the meeting as it's happening? I don't know whether it's possible, thought I'd bring it. Communication.
Could they participate by asking us questions?
They could participate during public comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something for communications to take up. It's a good idea. It might actually bring some more community involvement. They're sitting in their cars in traffic.
10 o'clock at night.
Not us. We still have to be here for cameras.
I think you could do it both ways. Go to meeting.
I've never heard of GoToMeeting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do those coffee with the boards that way too.
I'm thinking phone in.
Just kidding.
Phone it in.
I'm just kidding.
Phoning into the
Everybody make a
coffee.
cup of coffee in your own house.
So let's talk over this cup of coffee.
I'm all right with that too.
It would be a conference call.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, my other is to just reference again or draw your attention to the article I shared with you. I think it was early this morning in the New York Times about how Pearson does grading of state exams. And I don't know if you saw it, you should take a look at it. The Pearson representative himself used the analogy of like training McDonald's workers, right? So we're very standardized, and it to me was sort of a horrifying example of everything that is wrong with standardized tests as implemented by Pearson and New York State. And the ramifications then, what that says about how we look at the project of education K-12. What it forecloses in terms of imagination about what our job is here. So if you haven't read it, I would take a look at it. I would encourage the administrators to take a look at it, and the curriculum committee to look at it, because the cascading impact of that kind of perspective on what it means to take a test and who's grading it and all that represents was really more than at 5:30 this morning I could really articulate in an email. I was so outraged. So. Yeah, it was. I have open yet because I still have to email the reporter about how she handled it.
I just want to share that we did talk about it in curriculum committee today, so thank you.
Very good.
Okay. Other? Rick?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joe has more.
No, Rick.
I think this is worthy. We all probably got an email from the PTSO announcing that they are in financial difficulty, given all that they've given to the school district. If anybody's watching, please support the PTSO. I think if all of us could do our best, it would be good.
Joe?
Just another reminder, if you're interested in going to the NYSBA conference/convention this October 18th through 20th, Marianne is going to make reservations for, I think, the 5 of us who have already said yes. That'll be at the lower rate. If anybody wants to jump in later, and that's still possible. It's just that the rates go up. She's also going to look at some options for lodging for those of us who are going. So if you're interested, let Marianne know. Also a reminder, there are 2 summer law conferences, one in Latham on July 17th, thank you, which is an all-dayer, but a very good one. Laura and I went last year. There is also one put on by the Mid-Hudson School Study Council. Also a good one, not as long, closer, less expensive. That is on Friday, August.
7.
Yeah, it's 7th, that's right. So again, we haven't even gotten the registration for that one. We are going to be making reservations for the one up in Latham. So if you're interested, let Marianne know. At one of these days now, we're just going to register people. Not that we couldn't register you later, but I'm trying to cut down on the amount of work that Marianne has to do getting us registered for various stuff.
Do you know when the July one, when it ends?
Yeah, I should. You got the brochure right there.
It was till like 3, wasn't it till 3 or something?
2, well, the conclusion's at 2. 8 to 2.
Where is it?
Latham?
At Albany?
There's 3 different ones, but there's one.
That's the closest one to us. My experience is you get back around 4-ish. So let Marianne know.
Marianne, I'll go to the one in Newburgh. I'll go to the...
That's all I have on
Okay.
other.
All right, last call for other. All right, move on to action items. Is there anyone who wishes to remove anything from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the 2015-16 course enrollment waivers.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? Diane?
You have college and sociology, those are new this year?
Correct.
Okay. And so are those are open to seniors and juniors, or just seniors?
Juniors and seniors.
So seeing that the numbers are down quite a bit from last year, would that be probably because juniors and seniors took them and beyond every other year cycle?
Last year they were just a couple of up. They were 12, 13, 14 in those courses. So we're pretty much on track. We would expect maybe one or two more additional enrollments once conference and then resolved. But as I know, those are in lieu of duty. So rather than having the teacher proctor study hall, he's teaching those schools.
That's a good reminder, too, that typically if we decided not to have those courses enrolled below 12 at this point in time, the ones with the asterisks, we'd be picking up a study hall. We wouldn't be reducing a teacher to 0.8 FTE because many of our teachers teach sixth classes on a voluntary basis, so just to keep that in mind.
All right. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of department chairs and advisors for Rhinebeck High School for the 2015-16 school year.
So moved.
Deirdre?
Second?
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the superintendent of schools and board president are authorized to execute a supplemental memorandum of agreement, SMOA, with the Association of Non-Instructional Employees, ANI, regarding a health insurance buyout for future retirees, a copy of which supplemental memorandum of agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting.
So moved.
By Deirdre?
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion?
One very minor comment about the memorandum of understanding. It misspells Rhinebeck on the caption.
Oh,
So since this is being
right,
incorporated
Rhinebeck.
into the minutes of the meeting, we should probably do it with that. Otherwise.
Oh, okay, well,
Didn't recognize that.
yeah,
All right. Any other?
so correct. Does anybody have any questions about the substance of this? I mean, I'm not to belittle your comment, but, or ask us why we're recommending we do this, or?
Are you checking the bit to tell us?
No, not at all. I'm championing just the opposite, but I want to make sure everybody leaves here with their thirst for answers slaked. Okay.
And the next time that we go into negotiations, this is automatically just incorporated. There's no negotiation about it, it's done, it's over with, it just automatically slides into the bond.
All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the 3-year probationary appointment of Courtney Green in the position of English teacher assigned to Rhinebeck High School effective September 1st, 2015, in the tenure area of English at a salary of Step 1 MA, $58,223 in accordance with the RTA salary schedule for 2015-16.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve an increase to the position of part-time art teacher at Chancellor Livingston Elementary School from 0.9 FTE to 1.0 FTE and the subsequent 3-year probationary appointment of Fawn Johnson to the position of art teacher assigned to the Chancellor Livingston Elementary School effective September 1st, 2015 in the tenure area of art at a salary of Step 5 BA plus 18, $61,392 in accordance with the RTA salary schedule for 2015-16.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve additional summer 2015 curriculum work?
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve 2014-15 budget transfers in accordance with Board of Education policy number 6150 for the school year ending June 30th, 2015 as attached.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the letter of intent from the Rhinebeck Science Foundation to fund the BMS Computer Lab grant in the amount of $97,000 as stipulated?
So moved.
By Deirdre. By Lisa. Any discussion? Lisa.
Thanks once again to the Rhinebeck Science Foundation for the very generous grant. And the goal that it's going to achieve is one that we've wanted to press forward for a long time. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. I have a motion upon, to move into executive session for the purpose of discussion of the employment history of a particular person.
So moved.
By Deirdre.
Second.
By Lisa. All those in favor? It's unanimous, that motion passes. We're moving into executive session.